We've been chanting, learning the 13th chapter. It's the first sloka, it's not there in the first stanza, it is not there in many books. And I will say that one and repeat after me. And if you have the book, please bring it along. And first sloka, that many books are not there, we'll repeat that one. Arjuna Vacha Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetrajñameva cha Etad Veditu Ichchami Jnanam Jneyam cha Keshava. And many books starts from here. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetram Ityabhidhiyate Etadyo Veditam Prahuhu Kshetrajñam iti tadvidaha Kshetrajñam chapi mam vidhi Sarvakshetreshu bharata Kshetra kshetrajñayor jnanam Yatta jnanam matam mama Hetram yachayadri yadvikari yataschayat Sachayo yat prabhavascha Tat samasena me shrunu Rishibir bahuda ghitam Chandobhir vividhai pratak Brahma Sutra Padaischaiva Hetur Madhi Vinischitaihi. It's this chapter starts with, as I mentioned, that Arjuna asked the question, what is the field and who is the knower of the field? Kshetra and Kshetrajna. And Sri Krishna starts off with Kshetra. Kshetra means this body is called as this Kshetra, this field. Field, and the knower of the field is the Lord Himself. Not only knower of one field, all the fields, He is the knower. And we can't say that we are the owner of this body. If I have a pain in the stomach, I go to a consultant. I don't know what is happening in the stomach. Or something wrong with the body, we go to ask others. And if we are the owner of the body, we can continue to live forever. But we are not the owner of the body. At some point, that we had to give up. That means we are not the owner. In Kathopanishad it says it's like a body is like a chariot and he is the driver and we are just a passenger. When he asks us to get off the chariot, we have to get off. He is the owner of the chariot and he is the owner. We are not the owner. If we are the owner, we can continue with this body forever. But we are just a passenger. When the destination comes, he will ask us to get off and he will ask us to board another chariot. And it's a journey continues. We are not the owner of this body. And here it says, Rishibir Bahuda Geetam Chandobir Vividai Pritaka. This Rishis have sung this one, Chandas, all the Vedas have explained, and Brahma Sutra also it tells about this one, this same message. And Brahma Sutra is the one, it gives some guidelines. When you are reading the Upanishad or Vedas, it gives a guidelines how we should understand, how we should interpret. It is not based on the lexicon meaning, it gives a guidelines. When you are Brahma Sutra, it gives the formula. It's a basic understanding when you are reading the scriptures, what are the guidelines you have to observe, how to interpret. Do not misinterpret. It gives the rules, some certain rules it gives, that is the Brahma Sutra. Rishibir Bahuda Geetam. Rishi means our general understanding, one with a long beard and a white beard. It is not the one. Rishi. Rishi means, for example, this is Rajendra and my name is Rajendra And when I die, body remains, but the body collapses. I assume this one is the body as Rajendra. When the body collapses, body dies, body perishes. So I am apart from the body. Body perishes, form perishes, but name remains. Rajendra, name doesn't get destroyed. Name remains. Form destroys, name remains. It's Nama remains, Rupa goes. Rupa, there is a destruction in the Rupa, but Nama is remains. And whatever Vedas, whatever is spoken, it remains in the Akashic area. It's whatever we speak, thousands of years back, millions of years back, if somebody has spoken something, it still remains in the Akashic sphere. It doesn't get destroyed. That it always remains. And in the talking sphere, when we are talking, they say para, pashyati, para is paran, and it's a madhyama vaikari, that how you are speaking, it starts from the navel, that when you, in your meditation, they say sound origins from your navel, and pashyati, para pashyati, and they see it in the heart, and it's madhyama in the throat, it starts opening up, and vaikari it expresses. In the meditation, para means its origins from the stomach. It means in the meditation we can capture those words in the whatever is there in the Akashic sphere, that we can capture those words. That great revelations happens. It is not a new discovery. They tune themselves to the Akashic area. They tap those mantras or those inspirations, great ideas. It dawns. They tap it from that one, from the Akashic sphere. Rishis are the one. They are able to tap into that Akashic sphere and get those inspirations, those words, those mantras, those revelations. They are eternal. They tap into that one and they are expressing. Those who can tap into that one, they are called as Rishis. It's we are all. That's why they say we have to meditate, contemplate, think and talk. Think and talk means meditate. You get the new ideas, new revelations. You can capture into those Akashic, eternal words. You get that one, it is expressed through you. That if you can tap, that is called as Rishis. That we are all have the potential to become a Rishi. It's when you are meditating, when the mind becomes still and calm, we can tap into that one. That is called as Rishis. And we started with, it's a 8th shloka. It gives the guidelines for the seekers of yoga. It's the qualities we have to acquire. We'll repeat that one. Amanitvam adambitvam ahimsa kshanti arjavam acharyo upasanam shaucham स्थैर्यम् आत्मा विनिग्रहः Amanitvam, we covered that one. Amanitvam means not to hanker after popularity, not to hanker after name and fame. That if you are, don't expect the media to come, or you are on the television, and not to expect that only rich people should recognize your action. That it's one of the downfalls. That amanitvam, when you are seeking with the expectation, it's not a free talk. That it's not a service oriented. It's I do with expectation. That is not a karma yoga. Karma yoga, it's a principle of karma yoga. Do without expecting any reward for your action. That is, if you start expecting results, that means you are not doing a karma yoga, and it is a binding action. It binds you and it pulls you down. Amanitvam, adambitvam, not to show off, not to, it's adambitvam, not to over project your it's action, whatever you are doing, do not exaggerate. That one, it's adambitvam, not to show off. And third one, we started last week, ahimsa. And we saw the literal meaning of ahimsa. Ahimsa means, it's ahimsa in that it's a literal meaning is not to hurt others. Your existence should not be a burden to others. That is ahimsa meaning. And in Anugita, it's Sri Krishna tells this one to Arjuna. It's Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, after the war was over, everyone was at quietude. Arjuna approaches Sri Krishna. Whatever you spoke on the battlefield, it was great, Arjuna, but I forgot everything. That it was great, but I forgot everything. And Krishna says, why did I waste my time in explaining to you? You don't have a retention ability. And he chides Arjuna, but he repeats again. But it's not the same Gita, it is called as Anugita. Anugita means shorter Gita, but it's longer. In fact, it's longer Gita. Bhagavad Gita has 700 shlokas. Anugita has around 1500 shlokas. 1500 shlokas. In that one, he defines ahimsa. It's ahimsa is like elephant footprint, which is so big it encompasses. It's a camel's footprint, or cow's footprint, or a tiger's footprint. And those who are established in ahimsa, they are established in all other dharmas. It is so big, you are established in, you are following all the other dharmas. It's Sri Krishna's definition in Anugita. And another, it's for our existence, we tend to eat meat, and in our work also they can't believe that I can survive without eating meat. That it's a eighth wonder for them. How can you exist without eating meat? And it's a mamsa. We saw literal meaning. It's a mam. It's a I. Sa means you. It's a literal meaning. I give a copyright. I give a power of attorney for you to kill me in the next life. This life I am killing you to satisfy my hunger. Next life I will give a copyright to you to kill me. That is another definition of that one, ahimsa. It's ahimsa. Our existence, we can exist without eating the animals. We are not in Antarctica or in Arctic region where we can't find other substitute. We can exist without killing the animal. And third one is a third definition of ahimsa. It's in Chandogya Upanishad. It talks about, it's whatever we are, what we eat. We are defined based on what we eat. And it says, when you eat a gross thing, when you eat a food, gross part of the food, what you eat, it comes out as a stool. And mid part of the food, what we eat, it goes into your flesh. Fine part of the food, it goes into your mind. And what you eat, it affects your mind also. Be aware what you are eating. That animals, that if their psychic level are different, it's eating that one, it has an impact on our mind. It disturbs our psychic. It's that's why Jaisa an, Aisa man, that what you eat, it has an effect on your mind also. And also Chandogya Upanishad says, when we drink, this what you drink also is important. It's a gross part of the drink, it comes out as a urine, and mid part of the drink, it goes into your bloodstream, and fine part of the drink, it goes into your breath. That's why police do the breath test, and to double confirm, they take the blood sample, that whether alcohol substance is there. And it's a Jaisa Pani, Aisa Bani, that what you drink, that you speak accordingly. And we have to be careful of what we eat and what we drink. And fourth definition of ahimsa. Ahimsa means, people say not to injure, means some people interpret as be passive. Ahimsa means not to be passive. If a police, it's his duty, his or her duty to curb the criminals. If he can't say that I am following ahimsa, I don't want to hurt any criminals. He has to stand up against the negative elements. As a practitioners of yoga, ahimsa means we should have courage and stamina to stand up against the evil forces or negative things. We should not be very submissive. We should have a courage to stand up against what is not right. And if you are a gardener, if a weed is there, if I say I am following ahimsa, I will let weed to grow. That means weed will occupy the whole garden. It becomes a weedo garden. It's not a garden. It's a complete of weed. That ahimsa means take out the unwanted stuff from the garden. That is also called as ahimsa. We will see the further explanation of ahimsa next class.